motorcycle officer, West Linn, Oregon. Now, I know this gentleman, I'm going to leave his name out, but I'm going to tell you, he's a great guy, and everybody likes him, including me, and I'm really glad he's here. But I just want to set a stage for you for conversation. Okay. Would you guys happen to remember a road rage incident? Would you happen to remember that? Do you follow the channel enough? About 2 months ago, I told you a story about road rage. I had these folks were honking at me, which it alerts and alarms me. So when I pop my head up my truck, they were then mad, thinking that was me being aggressive and angry, not understanding, no, man, you frightened me. I see what's going on. All right, but do you remember me telling this story? And the whole thing was predicated, they were honking because a brand new sign had gone up. And by the way, this is right outside the studio. In fact, the literal road in question, where at the end of it there's a stop sign, is where my car is parked right now. So I mean, when I tell you outside the studio, like when some people say that it's an expression, not for me, it's right outside the studio. And the people were honking at me, not because I had done anything wrong and not because I was in danger. They were honking because there was a brand new sign. This four-way intersection has been here all of my lifetime. So let's just call it 50 years. But the sign was just put up. And I believe about 3 months right now the sign was put up. So at the time when the folks honked at me, it was brand new. It had been there a few weeks at the most. But because of the sign, you now have to turn right. Okay. And I'm just wondering if you guys remember that story, because to go back to that moment, to that four-way stop, where that fateful day I refused to turn right, because like Pavlov's dog, right? You do the same thing over and over. Bring this to you because while I'm at that stop, and here's what my interpretation was. Again, I want you to picture something. Four-way stop. The police officer and I are facing each other. He's the first at his stop sign. I'm at the first at my stop sign. Nobody happens to be coming from the other directions. Now, there is, in fact, a sign, and it does say only, and it's got an arrow that points to the right. That's true. So, I'm going straight. Now, straight across, there's a few things that you would do if you're from West Linn, which is a small town. But there's a Chevron for gas. There's a car wash. You can vacuum out your rig. And there's our one and only McDonald's. I go straight, and this cop man, he hits the lights, he hits a U-turn, he pulls me right over. Thinking, I wonder why he pulled me over. So, comes up to the window and asks the same thing they all ask. Is there any reason that you would have? And I don't have a reason other than my interpretation is that if I'm going to turn, I have to turn right. Of course I can go straight, but if I'm going to turn, I'm going to turn right, which is wrong. I'm finding out now that he pulls me over. I have interpreted that wrong. Fair enough. Though that does surprise me. I mean, I got to tell you, it's a little bit of a surprise that you can't go straight. We got all this business over here, right? Our only McDonald's as our Chevron, and you got all this enterprise, and you're telling me I've got to go up and around, I got to loop through. If I was the business owners, if I owned the Chevron and the McDonald's, which are pretty big conglomerates, I'm going to have a real problem with that. If I came in and I set up shop and I'm kicking into a city, and a city later makes it difficult for customers to get to me, I'm going to have a problem with that. That doesn't change my stance. I'm just adding to you why my interpretation that the sign that says only with an arrow, and then if you're going to turn, you have to go that way, but you are free to go straight. You might be laughing at me, and you might have all known. I actually took the time to explain that on the belief that you don't know that. We can all learn something together. Now, it's like anything, right? You say it's not about the ticket, but I'm sure it is. You ever have a guy that complains about money, but then he'll tell the people he's complaining, it's not the money. It's the principle. No, it's the money. But I feel as though I don't mind tickets. Like, that sounds appropriate to me. You have a city, and you have rules, and if somebody breaks the rules, I don't think you should pull them out of the car and cane them. I feel like a ticket is very appropriate. And I feel like everybody should follow the rules. I think I don't have a problem with it. But it's like so many other things. It's now not what happened. It's what was said. And I did say that to the officer. Yes, I saw the sign. My interpretation was if I was going to turn, I didn't turn. I went straight. And he responded back to tell me, no, you can only turn, you can't go straight. And that's why you had to jump the curb to get to the point you're in right now, pulled over by going straight. And I'm thinking to myself, I jumped a curb? Wow. I feel like I would remember that. I feel like I would know that. I feel like I would have felt that. This is 2 seconds ago. I jumped a curb. I don't know what he's talking about. Wow. I shut right up. Right up. Thinking to myself, but I think, you jumped a curb, Chael. You're a bit of a doofus, aside from not understanding that a sign that says only doesn't mean only turn and then do whatever you want to do. Hey, right, in all fairness, I'm with the cop. I'm rolling with the cop. I'm on his side of it. So, after I get the ticket, I now turn around and I've got to return to the 4-way stop, but now I can see, and there is no curb. There is something. There is a something. But it's not a curb, and I get to thinking to myself, well, maybe I don't know what curb means. In my mind, a curb would stop you. Right? If you were rolling a ball and it hit a curb, it would stop. If you were water and you were coming through and it hit the curb, it would stop. I understand you can jump and I understand you can go up. You understand my point. Like there would at least be an intent to stop, and there's no such thing. There is no such raised structure in the street. So I didn't jump a curb. I couldn't have jumped a curb. There isn't a curb. If my interpretation of curb is correct, which in fairness, maybe I got that wrong. Now, I'm only telling you this because as soon as I see that there's not a curb, it does change things. And the officer, we're at a 4-way stop. You got to picture this in your head. You got to either picture this in your head or just click on a different video because I'm dead in the water here, right? I want you to picture a 4-way stop. We're facing each other. The only thing that made this a moving violation, the only thing that made this illegal was the sign. Might sound simple, but it's important that we note. It's just like any stop sign, right? Why do you have to stop somewhere? Because the sign says stop. If that sign wasn't there, you don't have to stop. I get the simplisticness, but I need you to understand what made this illegal is the sign. Okay. Now, the officer's on the other side. There is no illusion that he saw the sign. There is no illusion that he knows that there's a sign. And that becomes relevant in court. And I don't believe that's here. I don't think that's hearsay. But it's a word like that. A different time in the officer's life, possibly a minute before. He did see the sign. At a different time in his life, though, he saw a sign. He remembered that he saw the sign. So while the claim is he watched me ignore a sign, well, that's the claim, right? He's judging my action. It's my action that he's judging. But he deems that that action is wrong because of a sign that he had previously seen. And you might roll your eyes and say, that's not how it works, Chael. Well, that's the entire equation I'm coming to you. Is that how it works? I'll give you an example maybe you can relate to. There's certain places in the country where it's wide open road and there's police that are in airplanes up above. And they will sight you. They will do the radar and sight how fast a guy's going on one of these long, windy, open country roads that's got nothing in between. And then he'll call that down and an officer will pull you over and ticket you and tell you why. You were caught on radar, you were going this speed, here's your ticket. Now, if you were to fight that and show up to court, and the officer that wrote you the ticket shows up against you, the judge will always go with the officer. You have to know the right words to say, and the right words that if you say, he will see it your way, which is that's hearsay. This officer did not clock me. He was contacted by somebody else who allegedly clocked me, and that person isn't here today. And yeah, that's the game. That is true. That person would have to be there. So with that in mind, which isn't completely the same situation, but with that in mind, where you have an officer who decided I did a violation, and the only thing that makes it a violation is the sign, but he could not and did not see the sign. He just couldn't. He was in the wrong spot. Only I could have seen the sign. If you were to argue that and say, Chael, that's silly, you can't see it. No, you cannot. You can see the back of the sign, but now you're making a great guess on what on the front of it. You're making a great guess that it wasn't obstructed. You're making a great guess that it wasn't graffitied over. I realize the silliness that it may. I'm talking about a technicality. I'm thinking of fighting this one out. I don't want to. I find that stuff annoying. Not to mention, I'm grateful the guy was there. It was raining. He's still out doing his job. Like, this is a good dude. For sure. But he said I jumped a curb. And there is no curb. If I know what a curb means. And in fairness to you and the officer, and I know he's watching this, I've never looked it up. Maybe I don't know what a curb means. But not only did I not jump what I know is a curb, there's not even one there. And when there is a sign that got added that says turn only, I think I'm reasonable for thinking that means if you're going to turn. And that's not the law, and that's not my argument. By the way, it doesn't matter if I'm reasonable or not. I'm sharing with you why I thought what I thought. He says there's a sign. But he's also got to say he couldn't see it. At some other point in his life, he might have seen it and used that as the decision. I don't know. I'm just here to ask you guys. Would that work? If I plead not guilty and he is going to have to testify, I could not see a sign, but I believe one was there. There was yesterday. Is he going to win? Or am I? I don't dispute who's right on the law, by the way. I'm asking you, right? There's technicality. There's a... What do you think? Do I plead not guilty? Or do I just fill out the check?